Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life.
Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. Today, my guest is Kaylee Richardson, a Virginia-based beekeeper, herbalist, and author of the Beekeeper's Apothecary. Through her work with honeybees and herbal medicine, Kaylee invites others to slow down, reconnect with nature, and learn something old. Kaylee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your background. How did you get into all of this?
Well, definitely my childhood played a huge role in how I have become the woman that I am and what I do. I grew up in the mountains of Linden, Virginia, where I was kind of that feral child, always foraging, always gathering blackberries, always finding the wild ginseng and the pawpaw. And, you know, we lived in a very, I feel like it was in the middle of nowhere, up on the mountain. Now it's a little bit more populated, but my childhood really kind of played a huge role in the decisions that I've made up until this day. But you know, I grew up with herbs. I grew up finding bugs. I was that child that would find salamanders, and I even had a pet turtle that I would bring to school with me. I'd sneak her in my desk. But growing up, you know, you kind of get away from certain things, and I essentially married my high school crush, and we've now been married for going on 20 years, but he was in the military, and so we moved away and started our life in Kansas, and then came back, and at that time I was getting into the medical field, and I was working my way from a CNA all the way up into a surgical first assistant in the operating room. And we had, in that midst of everything, we started, you know, homesteading and raising our family, and we would take our children out when they were babies to go forage and go find wild mushrooms. And we wanted to instill that. And so my husband and I both kind of realized, after seeing a lot of family members kind of, a lot of families, you know, not necessarily family members, but a lot of families live this like on the go lifestyle, that we just kind of realized, you know, like yes, that's great, but it didn't serve what we were trying to accomplish. And so in short, you know, we chose to raise our kids living a farm life and showing them the herbs. Well, in the midst of all of this, I'm still working in the medical field, but my health started to really kind of take effect. My adrenals I was exhausted, and I was really kind of struggling. And so I, in short, found my roots again, and started really taking care of myself with food and with herbs, and, you know, actually pouring into myself. And in the midst of that, you know, I was also raising my children, and I walked away from the medical field, and I have not been back. And I threw myself into full-on herbalism, and that is, you know, the main aspect of what I do here now on the farm, and that in beekeeping, because herbs and bees go hand in hand. So it really, the main, in a nutshell, was just to focus on my foundation. And that's for my health, for my family, and for my farm.
Yeah. Fascinating. All right. Talk a little bit about getting involved in herbs, because I know there's some people that are like, you know, herbs or witch medicine, you know, all that kind of crazy stuff. And I'm just like, they've been around for centuries.
They're, you know, yes, that's a hard topic. There's a lot of people who believe that herbal medicine is definitely more into the witchcraft realm. But I'm a firm believer that if it's who you give the power to, who you give the gratitude to. I'm faith-based. So I look at everything as God's blessings, and that is, our food, that's our lifestyle, that's the herbs, that's kind of everything. So for me, my gratitude, is to God, and knowing that, he's the provider. And I think that that's actually beautiful to say, because I didn't realize this from the get-go, but there were a lot of people who are faith-based that actually thought that herbal medicine was not for them because of that. And so opening up that conversation of saying like, hey, we have a place in this, and we're all able, everyone's able to use these herbs. And I think a lot of people get herbalism. I think they get a little too intimidated by herbal medicine. But really it's the definition of an herbalist is anyone who uses, collects, or grows herbs, especially the medicinal ones.
Yeah.
So if you're cooking with sage and thyme and oregano, if you're using these herbs in your culinary, which is how I grew up, that to me makes you a practicing herbalist. They all have something, to offer. And I might get a little bit of kickback from that, but I do believe that if you limit yourself by not claiming something that you're doing, I think you speak it. Like once you're doing something, you're doing it.
Correct. Yeah. And I think people, they have to realize that so many of the culinary herbs are very medicinal. And so you're, if you're anti-herb, you have to, there's a lot of things you're probably going to have to cut out.
Right.
So, talk about, I think this is the other thing is a lot of people get confused about how hard herbs are to grow.
They're not. Most of the medicinal herbs that we grow are actually the ones that grow wild. I do grow a list of medicinal herbs like calendula, I do thyme, oregano, I do my sage, I do all of my culinary herbs. I grow holy basil, which, that's one of the most beautiful adaptogen herbs that you can grow. But they're not as hard. I think the harder part is knowing the ones that you need to tame, like mint.
Yes. Mint and sage actually can be a little bit invasive if you can't let it, but it typically isn't. But I want to go back to holy basil because holy basil is something that I think can be very confusing because there's technically 3 different types of holy basil?
Yes. So, and I think the one that I mainly use is the Oseum sanctum. It has like a really, I love the smell of it.
Yes.
So they all kind of offer the same thing, but a lot of them have like different flavor. But that's the main one that I focus on that I grow because I like it. You know?
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Yeah, because that's something like we had a customer this year that was like, Michael, this is not the same that you had last year. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it said holy basil. And then you go to I went to the Johnny's catalog because we buy from multiple places. And Johnny's actually had 2 different holy basils and different Latin names. And I was like,
Yeah.
And then what she brought me is she showed me pictures of her garden because it is self-seeded. So she just literally yesterday brought me a whole pot of this other type of holy basil that now she was thrilled that she could share with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and I think that it's really important when you're looking at plant medicine is to always go with that scientific name. I get questions all the time. Passion flower is one herb that we grow here. It actually is native and it grows wild. But I'm constantly getting emails about like, oh, is this the right passion flower? But and that's where it's always just really important to just go to the scientific name because the one that offers like the most medicinal properties is Passiflora incarnata, and that's the one that has the sedative-like effect and that calming effect, and that's just little things, catnip, catmint.
Yes, that's another one that we've struggled with.
Yes. Nephthocataria is, and I'm horrible at pronouncing the scientific names, but
I don't even try. So you're
yeah.
doing way better than me.
But the scientific name, but both could actually kind of be interchangeable, but the catnip, which is the white flower, has more of the medicinal properties that a lot of people go for. But even that, they have common names too. And so people are like, oh, well, that's catmint. I would even call it catmint. It's in the mint family, but it's different. So yeah, that's the confusing part that can be a little bit frustrating. I'm sure even for you trying to find the right seeds with the right, what's the right one.
Correct. Yeah. Like lemongrass is the same thing. There are multiple lemongrasses out there. So, it's interesting. It's different.
Yarrow too. Yarrow is the other one. Yarrow tends to constantly, a lot of people, I actually had a wonderful friend. She grows flowers and she grows yarrow. And she was like, I harvested way too much. I grew way too much. Can I bring them to you? Can you use them? I'm like, okay, is it white flower or is it the colored flower?
Yes.
Unfortunately, it was the colored flower. And I'm like, I can't use that.
Now, remind me, is it just not effective at all, or is it just way less effective?
So the way that I was taught, it does not have the medicinal properties that are,
Okay.
I mean, I know that you could use it in a pinch, but for me, like with our apothecary, we only use, the one that's recommended. So mainly, but in a backyard pinch, if you cut yourself and you need to grab an herb and you make a quick poultice with the yarrow that you have,
it's better than not.
Correct. So
yeah, because echinacea is the other one that's a little bit challenging. We've grown multiple different ones, and I think the Gustifolia is the one we've got right now, and it's hard to grow because it's just so slow.
Yes.
The Purplea is it's so much more robust and a lot prettier.
Yeah.
But I believe the Gustifolia supposedly is a better quality medicinal, if I'm not mistaken, or you tell me.
Purpurea is the one that we mainly use medicinally, like the roots and like obviously the aerial parts as well. So that's the one that we kind of stick with. I try to really kind of stick by the book. For our apothecary, but I'm not to say that it won't offer it, just kind of like the yarrow. It's more or less like what's the one that has the best research behind it, the most potency.
Well, and then again, it all depends on who's you're following and who you're reading, because what I was told, and again, this could be very wrong, Augustifolia tends to be in much higher elevations, so it's cleaner.
Interesting.
Again,
all
sorts of things out there.
No, that's really interesting. I might have to dig a little deeper on that one. Kind of, maybe we'll have to do a whole article on the non-typical herbs that gardener grows. What could you do with them if you could use them? This year we grew, obviously we sell a lot of herbs online, so anything that didn't sell online, we went ahead and planted out in the open field, focusing on ones that we can also sell as bare roots. So we have a lot of stinging nettle out there, a lot of other ones. One that we just threw in because I wanted to see it grow, and I think we're just going to harvest the roots, is the ashwagandha. So that one's fascinating. We also tried marshmallow, which is fascinating as well. We're excited to make some real marshmallows. Yeah, that's actually going to be good. You're going to want to let it grow for about 2 years before you harvest the root on that one. Because that's when it gets really nice and developed. But yeah, the ashwagandha, we grow it here. I actually have some plants growing outside. And then I have a few plants growing inside my high tunnel. That I'm going to try to keep alive. Over the winter. Yeah. So we're right on the edge. Yeah. So I'm like, we're in Virginia. My grow zone, I think right now, 6B, I think it is what it is now. Exactly where we are. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to see if we can keep this one going. But it grows so fast, and it definitely can grow a hardy root for sure. definitely for sure. So, but we harvest the root, and then I've also used the berries.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Here's a new one that actually my guys was telling me that he was reading is fig leaves. I had no idea that figs actually are incredibly medicinal.
Yeah, no, that there are so many trees. That is one goal of mine that I have that I want to really, after I'm like bored and I want to learn more, there's a whole line of like medicinal trees that you can use. And then there are some that I already use.
Yes.
Which, the willow, white willow, that's aspirin, or is equivalent to aspirin. We use like the linden leaves.
Yes. We planted two different types of linden on the farm for that very reason.
Love that.
Yeah.
Ginkgo is another one. I use horse chestnut as well.
Okay.
Mainly not internally, but I'll use the horse chestnut as a salve.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a vasotonic.
Yes.
Or venous tonic. So you can use it specifically for like spider veins on your legs. So anyways, that's my goal, is to like eventually branch more into those trees and like what else, of course, elderberry, so.
Oh gosh. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Forever
Elderberry.
a student. That's the thing. We're going to be forever a student.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the bees, because you talked about earlier about how the bees fit so well into the herbs.
Yes. So when I first started having bees on our homestead, I really wish I would have documented from the beginning what our homestead had looked like.
Okay.
After getting the bees, I noticed such a change in our pastures. I noticed that our pastures were just mainly growing grass, but then over the years, now they're completely covered with clover. And so I'm watching how my farm is changing from just adding bees. And then I noticed, there's so many experiences. So in a quick nutshell, I noticed how we had a tree branch that had fallen, and it was a cottonwood. And the buds were kind of still seeping that sap, their resinous sap. And I noticed the bees were going over and they were collecting it. And I was just completely fascinated by it. And so putting all the dots together and realizing, the bees were using the plant medicine back in their colony. They were using the resin as propolis. And that's what they used to coat their entire colony to, keep them healthy. It's they're extremely hygienic creatures. And so the bees were essentially, after watching them go to not only the cottonwood, but then my husband and I have a wood mill. And so all of the sap that was, coming out of these trees, like I'm watching them, like the cedars, so they're gathering all of this and they're bringing it back. So then I started kind of doing some research into like the phytochemicals of the plants and the resins, and finding out that one colony could have up to 300 different plant species in it, in the propolis. And that kind of blew my mind, and it really, what dawned on me was, one, the bees are the original herbalist. They're going to the plants to help them stay healthy for the propolis. That is one product that I harvest and I will use and make into a tincture. And I'll use it the same way the bees do. It's a barrier. It's a protected. It's antifungal, antimicrobial, antiviral. And then also, too, doing some research and finding about how the herbs play a huge role in their health. Like thyme and oregano, it contains a constituent that it's thymol. Well, beekeepers will use that in their varroa mite treatment. So it's like, if I'm planting these herbs that are not only going to benefit myself, but also the honeybees, how let's create a healthier ecosystem, for both of us. It's a dual purpose here. So I have a few little experiments that I've been kind of doing over the last couple of years, and hopefully maybe one day I'll put it out there. But I use plants for our honeybees and for their health. And we run around, I think I have like 36 colonies right now.
Okay.
It's like chicken math,
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes.
But I mean, we had 100% survival rate over the winter.
Wow.
Our colonies have been very, very healthy. I'm not having to do anything, but there are a few things that I do. And that's one, I'm super conservative with how much I harvest. Two, I don't feed. Why would I take too much and then have to give them sugar water?
Exactly.
What does sugar do to us? So those are little things. 3, I don't clean my frames and I don't clean the inside of my box. I keep that propolis there because that's plant medicine that the bees are using. So why would I scrape it? And also too, I'm a huge fan of my bees swarming. So
talk a little bit about that.
So I might get some kickback again because there are so many beekeepers. Like, first, there are so many different types of beekeepers, just like there are different types of herbalists.
Correct.
But as a beekeeper, for me, like, what am I doing it for? One, I'm doing it. What's my purpose behind it? I'm 100% doing it for my homestead, for my health, for the byproducts, which is propolis, honey, and beeswax. I'm not a commercial beekeeper, so I'm not going to overdo it. But I let my bees swarm because they know way more than I do. And when a colony swarms, there's a difference between swarming and absconding. Swarming is when they reproduce. So a new queen, a handful of new queens will be made within that colony. And once the virgin queen or a few virgin queens, once they emerge and fly off, a few will fly off with the old queen and then leave some back. And then that old queen with a handful of the new queens will find a new home. Well, what happens inside the original colony is a break in the brood pattern because it takes so many days until that new queen will go on her virgin flight, which, it's her mating flight. That's where she would go and mate with a handful of boys.
Okay.
And then comes back. And then, so there's this break in the brood pattern, which I love. That break kind of helps put a pause on the varroa mite population because the varroa feed from the larva and they feed. So if you remove their source, for a little bit, it calms them down.
Yeah.
Every colony is going to have varroa. It's just making sure that you have a very healthy colony that can withstand it. So I might probably get some kickback with that, but I love a good swarm. Plus, it's a game that we like to play. Like, how high up can I go and can you catch me? So.
Yes. Okay. So then are there any herbs that you use to actually treat inside the hive, or you're just more letting them sample what's growing around them?
So I do a lot of thyme and oregano outside of the colony.
Okay.
I'll actually put it through the entrance. This year, I actually started playing around with stinging nettle. And I actually started using stinging nettle inside my colony. So it's still a test. It's still a study to see,
Interesting. Okay.
But there's, and then I've also done catnip as well. So hopefully one day I'll put some studies out there. I think I'm going to need a couple more years to see if it's exactly, contributing. I don't know if it's the full reason why, but I do think just like ourself, and it's more of the holistic, it's the full circle, we can't just, I say this all the time, but our society has kind of become very accustomed to a quick fix and a Band-Aid. But I think it's more than just a quick fix and a Band-Aid. Just like herbs, you know, you gotta go to look at all the things. What's the culprit? What are the other contributing factors? Not saying that things don't help, but I think there are multiple reasons why colonies tend to fiddle out.
Well, I mean, we, again, have developed a commercial system, which is like any other commercial system, where we take as much as possible, give as little as possible, and do it as cheap as possible. And with the whole thing with the sugar is like, well, we're taking something that's highly nutritious and giving them something that's empty calories and expecting them to be able to do okay. I mean, what do you see when you give a horse or any animal bad nutrition?
Right.
Boom.
What do you see in ourselves when we give ourselves bad nutrition?
Yes.
I mean, I think the easiest way for people to sometimes understand is if you had a vehicle and you put bad gas in it, is it going to run? You know, so no, not always. So I think it really does. It's all about the foundation in every aspect. Even with the honeybees, like going back to the clover, you know, what I've found is that the clover, by my clover expanding in my pastures, the clover then feeds the nitrogen back into my soil, which then has grown more clover and allowed my pastures to become more lush. But what that is also doing for our honeybees is it's providing one of the best nectar and pollen sources for the next generation of baby bees that are growing. You know, so it's like it's bigger. It's bigger than just here, I'm going to do this, we're going to treat and walk away. There's a bigger story to it. And sometimes it takes stepping back and seeing it. But yeah, it's definitely a whole foundation.
Yeah. Okay. So talk a little bit about, your farm and what are the sales channels? Do you sell just online? Do you have any local sales opportunities?
Yeah. So I do have it online.
Okay.
It's thehomestead.com. And I tend to have a few products up there. I also offer workshops, hands-on workshops where people can actually come and spend time and actually learn in the garden and learn, you know, how to make plant medicine. And I do a few workshops a year where we get people from all over. My book is coming out. It's actually going to print like any day, which
awesome. Yeah.
is crazy, which is the Beekeeper's Apothecary. It talks about not just honey and salves, but the way I really felt that it would be best to teach is to kind of talk about each system of the body and how it works together. That kind of brings in my whole experience in the surgical world, because every system works together. And so that book is going to be on there. But I also have a mushroom blend that I launched officially this past October. That has been the main staple of my health.
Okay.
That.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about that. Is that something you just take as a supplement every day, or?
Yes. Yeah. So I started blending it about 6 years ago, and mainly for my health back when I was I was kind of coming out of my rock bottom moment. Long story short, I started blending it for myself and for my family member. I had a family member that was diagnosed with cancer. And a couple of years ago, things were a little scary in the medical field. And I knew, because I had seen cancer, I knew that it was growing a little faster, and it made me a little nervous. It genuinely made me a little scared. And I started offering the mushroom blend because of the turkey tail that's in it. It has beta glucans that kind of help inhibit the cancer. Well, by the time that they were able to have the surgery, they went ahead and removed the lymph nodes as well. And the cancer did not spread. And so they actually didn't require any chemo or radiation. And I believe genuinely, wholeheartedly that between the mushrooms, the prayer, and, lifestyle change, they're living to this day stronger than ever. And so very thankful for that. But essentially the blend started helping me and started helping them. And then my husband, and then friends and neighbors. And it was one of those things that I was like, I need to put this out there. And I know that there's quite a trend right now with mushroom blends, but again, kind of going back to the foundation, when I was purchasing mushroom blends, they were selling the mycelium and the fruiting body. Well, they didn't teach that a lot of the mycelium that they were selling, it was grown on grain. So here I'm trying to help myself.
Yes.
And my stomach is upset and I'm hurting. And so my mushrooms are not grown on grain. They're grown on the foundation that they thrive off of, which is wood and the material that fits the matter. And so we launched officially back in October. It's lab tested and now I can sell it online and so
awesome.
Here we go. So
yes. Yeah. That's awesome to hear. Talk a little bit about, you have kids. Talk a little bit about how you've sought to include them in the farm.
Oh gosh, they have made the farm.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I mean, my children I can't even say children anymore. My son just turned 18.
Okay.
Which blows me away. He has a goal where he's going to hopefully, have his house here. But both of my children were a huge part of our farm from day one. Actually, the phrase learning something old came from my son when he was a little boy, because I was teaching him things that I had learned in the past and new things that I was learning.
Yeah.
And it was like, Mommy, we're learning something old. And I'm like, you are absolutely right. And so that stuck with me because if we don't learn, there's so much that's going to be forgotten. And so we have really just made it a point to just take them along and show them how to forage, show them how to find water, show them the plants, raise the animals. And, I'm quite biased because they're mine, but they have truly turned out to be pretty remarkable for their age. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome to hear. Now, remind me where in Virginia you're located?
So we are located about an hour out of DC.
Okay.
In the Appalachian, where the Skyline Drive is. So where the mountains are kind of started is where our farm is.
Okay.
It's not city at all, thankfully. It's still slow.
Yes.
Slow country. This is home
Yes.
for both my husband and I. We live in a small town, and people still wave.
Yeah. But you are still an hour outside of DC, man. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
If you want to go there.
Yes, we don't. I mean, we're pretty content where we're at. I mean, it's too beautiful. This area is just completely too beautiful to leave.
Yeah. Okay. Talk a little bit about, obviously in the past 2 decades, there's been a lot of chatter back one way versus the other of the whole homesteading / herbalist / maybe even maybe put a little bit of the Maha movement there. Talk a little bit about what are your thoughts kind of what you're seeing. And because again, you have a book that's literally coming out about this.
Yeah. Ooh, I think the big thing is just the only thing I can offer, only because I turn off a lot of the things. I mean, I think
external.
The other aspect to it is, okay, not only is it important to look at the food and the things that we're putting into our body, but also what we're listening to, also what we're taking in. I just really hope that people learn or get inspired to just try to help themselves. And I think that's really what my main focus has been, is just, I'm going to show you what I've done to help myself, and I hope that you do it. And even though like I help people and I'm considered a community herbalist, and if someone calls me and they're like, hey, Kaylee, I need something. Do you have something for this? Of course, I'll whip it up. I'll deliver it. I mean, I've done that many times, trying to help take care of my community. But, but I feel that where I'm really being led is to just show them that they can do this, and just give them the tools and walk them through it and show them that it's not scary. And, so I'm actually genuinely excited that there are people that are seeing it, and that they realize like, oh, maybe I don't have to take medicine for the rest of my life. Maybe if I just change this, and this, I'm actually going to do, feel okay. That I think is the big part that when I do work with people and I talk to them, I mean, I think there's a level of scared, that they're like, I don't want to be reliant. And even that goes to show with how I teach herbal medicine. I don't want you to be reliant on me. I want people to do their own research. So for a movement, I think the question that I would say is, since when did eating healthy become a diet? I just think it should be normal. So we'll see what happens.
It's not something new. It's a return. I think it's a recalibration, maybe, is what I think what we really could go for. I really like what you said there about, turn off and, just do it yourself. Because I think that's the other thing, is so many people think about that someone's going to save them and they're just waiting for that. And unfortunately, I think that is how we got into this problem to begin with, is, our food freedoms got taken away because the government came in and said, well, we will go to the farmers and check to make sure they're using the proper water to wash your eggs. And what that did is that literally put thousands of small farms out of business.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. We don't even in school teach people basic hand washing, or, even what E. coli is.
Yeah.
And that is, even how to thaw food. It blows my mind of how much we've removed basic life from our education system, and we have instead, gone to some of the most ridiculous things out there that we're letting people major in.
Yeah, it's hard, and I mean, even for my children. I mean, I keep saying children. I really shouldn't anymore. I'm like, for my offspring, no, because they're not children anymore.
For the next generation.
The next generation, for the next generation in this property, that was one thing that my husband and I were like, we have to show them. We want to show them how to hunt. They know how to hunt. They know how to find. I mean, when my babies were little, I was showing them what plants to follow to lead them to water. I was showing them things that I grew up with. My house that I lived in was this literally 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house on the side of the mountain with no AC. I drank out of natural springs that were coming off of the mountain. Now they have a sign on it saying don't drink. And I'm like, I literally lived doing that.
Yes.
Yes. So I guess it's kind of just, be a little bit of a rule breaker, I guess, live a little against the grain.
Well, one of our employees always told us, he said we would never be good slaves. We were never going to be good slaves.
No, I never grow. And that's why my garden, my garden doesn't grow in rows. So I kind of can relate to that. But I think you just do the best that you possibly can. And the people that are going to see it, they're going to see it. And the people that are going to want to change, they're going to change. And unfortunately, it might get to a breaking point for them to change. But the biggest thing to remember in this is there is absolute beauty in breaking. And you are so allowed to break a cycle. And, you're okay. It's okay. Break,
Yeah.
And I mean, the last day of my work, when I left the hospital, I was walking out, and on the concrete, it was broken, and I looked down, and there was a dandelion that was growing out of the concrete, and I'm like, okay, something beautiful can grow from this. And so I truly had to walk by faith and trust that, hey, what's my purpose? What am I here for? And once I accepted that, then it was like, here you go. Here's everything. And I'm still along for the ride. There's a lot of things in my life that I'm kind of just still like, wait, what? This is happening now?
Yeah.
So, but gratitude is key. So being thankful.
Yeah. Do you have, obviously I can't ask for a favorite herb, but what would you say is the herb that you use most frequently?
Well, definitely the mushrooms, which cordyceps for my energy. My mushroom blend is my go-to, but cordyceps, the turkey tail, the reishi mushroom, and lion's mane. I recently shared at a speaking event, how for the longest time I carried around somebody's words over me when I was a little girl, because they said that I needed medication because I couldn't sit still and I couldn't focus. And so my whole life I'm growing up thinking that I'm not who I'm supposed to be, or that I'm messed up, or there's something wrong with me. And I had to release that and just kind of say, like, no, these words are not going to be over me. But for me, the mushrooms have helped me actually have the full-on clarity and ability to do the things that I've knew I was capable of, but I let somebody's words kind of hold me back. So my mushroom blends and oats, Avena sativa. That's another one that it's a nerve tonic. So wonderful for the nervous system and restoring it. So.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely grow some of that.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. Well, Kaylee, thank you so much for coming on. Anything else like to share before we go?
I hope that, whoever listens to this becomes inspired and knows that they can do this, and just start with the herbs that they have growing in their pantry, or start with the herbs that they have growing right outside, and also a couple herbs in their pantry, and learn all the things that they can do with them. So.
Absolutely. Kaylee, remind us where they can go to find about your book and your products.
So my website is the Homestead, and you can find me on the Homestead. I also share on YouTube and Instagram. And here in the next couple of weeks, you're going to probably start seeing a lot more about the book coming out. Pre-orders are available right now, but it's going to print very, very soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, Kaylee, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.